So everyone, welcome to our second meeting today with Baltimore Public City Schools. I really appreciate everybody being here. My name is Kelly Caldwell. Again, I am the program head in charge of the Academy Support Center. And we recently took over Baltimore City schools 6 months ago, maybe somewhere around in there. Some of you have been in our training before, doing our instructor training center. So we're very, very glad to have you involved and with our Academy Support Center. Now, we have been a Cisco Academy for over 22 years. So basically, when it started in 98, we went to classes in 99. So I have actually been involved with it, and I was working at a community college as a network engineer and was recruited back to Stanley Community College to be one of the two people to start the Cisco Academy at Stanley Community College. The other was a gentleman named Bill Fry. So I've been involved with it a very long time. I have CCNA, Cyber Ops Associate, one half of my CCNP. I had my CCNP for 18 years and lost it. When I didn't renew it one year, I actually got the flu, and long story, but ended up not getting it renewed. And so I'm halfway through getting my CCNP back now. And I can tell you the Encore test is a bear. I mean, an absolute bear. So my background, I actually have 2 degrees in English. I have a BA and an MA in English. That proves to you, just like Chris in our earlier meeting, who had a degree in culinary arts, you can work in IT and come at it from a side angle, most definitely. But I did spend my first 3 years at NC State in biochemistry. So I was one of those people, when you take the Myers-Briggs personality test, you sit right dead in the middle, which people think that's a great place to be, but it's really a horrible place to be. Because one day you want to read Shakespeare and one day you want to read a technical manual. That's kind of my background. Michael Bowden and Brian Crump are my co-partners in crime, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves a little bit. I will tell you that both of them are my former students. So if they screw anything up, it's my fault. And if they do well, then I give them all the credit for it. So Brian and Michael, I'll let you introduce yourselves real quick. Whoever wants to go first. We'll go with seniority. We'll go with Brian. He's got more.
Yeah, I'm the oldest. Yeah, I feel it. My name is Brian Crump. I'm actually the program head of IT network management on the curriculum side, and then teach with the Academy Support Center and the Instructor Training Center with Kelly. I've been doing this 10 plus years with Kelly. Previously, my background was in production jobs. I worked at Alcoa, aluminum smelting, and then worked with Philip Morris, and through layoffs, just kind of got tired of it. So I have a degree from Stanley in IT, then went from there to ECU, which we have a great pathway to East Carolina. Then I've got my master's at Fort Hays State University. And because of COVID, my doctorate program is on hold, but plan to start that back and finish up hopefully in the next couple of years with my doctorate from North Central University.
Okay, were you through, Brian? Okay. Hey, my name is Michael. So a little bit about me, former student under Kelly back in 2006, graduated 2008. Was fortunate enough with the help of Kelly to leave out of here Cisco certified, and ended up, had a couple jobs between then, went to a call center for Vonage. I always tell everybody that's the first job I ever quit with no backup plan. I left there, went to Advanced Auto around the same time. I'm still sending out applications. And finally, I landed an operations job for First Health for the Carolinas. Ended up being there 10 years, ranging from operations, then moved up to help desk, then got into desktop and finished my last 2 years there back in networking. And then one day, wasn't really looking for a job, but I saw this job open, and I ended up applying. So I've been here for 2 years, and I'm enjoying everything so far. So I teach with the IT Academy. I also teach some instructor classes, and I also have curriculum classes. So I mainly teach most of the Cisco's from classes 1 through 3.
I was trying to find the unmute. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, so Mike and Brian both teach both curriculum and ITC classes. I only teach ITC classes now. I only teach instructors, which is good and bad. I miss actually being in the classroom with regular students. Not that instructors aren't regular students, but you're not. I'll be quite honest with you. You're not. You know how different it is teaching instructors versus teaching students in a seated classroom. So the reason I did bring Brian and Mike in, two reasons. One, down the road here before too long, I'll be hitting the ejection handles, and retiring a couple years from now. So introducing you to them, as they'll be the folks who will be taking over once I finally hit the ejection handles and get out of here. And also because Brian is our lead instructor on IT Essentials. And so before we get started going over what we're going to talk about here, quick question. I know, Giza, you mentioned you teach IT Essentials and Cisco 1 and 2 in the classroom. Robin, you're teaching, what classes are you teaching?
I'm teaching IT Essentials.
Okay, IT Essentials. And anybody else, are you the only two currently teaching in the academy?
Well, this year we are doing IT Essentials, Cybersecurity Essentials, Networking Essentials.
Okay.
And we're also doing, what was the fourth class? It's all over the place. That's
Okay.
all I can tell you.
All right. Well, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to turn it over to Brian, let Brian talk to you about, many of you may have heard, you may not have, about the update to IT Essentials. There's a version 8 coming out. And so Brian will be able to talk to you a little bit about that. It's not fully out yet. The bridge materials are out, but the full 8 class is not out yet. So Brian, I'll let you take over and talk about that a little bit.
Turn on sharing, please.
We'll do it. I'm actually going to make you a co-host and make Michael a co-host. And
so this is for the new exam that is going to be
Yes.
out in October, correct?
Yes,
Correct.
it'll align to that. That is correct.
Yep. Brian,
All
you got it? You good?
Yep, I'm good.
All right.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. We just found out about this, the last partner meeting we had. The easiest way for Cisco to push out the new information was just do a bridge type course. And then what they decided is you go ahead and create your original IT version 7 course, or import the 8.0 material, or they've got another way where you can actually have it both. And I'll show you what all 3 courses look like. And this is some of the scope and sequence. Really, it's over. It's going to align with the new A+ certification that comes out in October. They've added more topics, including information about DNS, spam, VLANs, definitely about privacy. And I know, Gaza, and I hope I'm saying that correct, you had mentioned that you were working with Windows 7. One of the requirement is Windows 10, because that is the majority of what everyone's using. So getting Windows 10 software or the operating system up and running will definitely benefit students. So what they've done is it's still 14 modules or 14 chapters, whichever way you say.
Brian, slide back up just a second and show the hardware requirements there, because that's one of the things I know Gaza was wanting to see.
So it is Windows 10, and it will talk about Windows 11, but the main focus will be on Windows 10 just because of the slow push out. The majority of school systems, organizations are not going to push out Windows 11 until they're 100% sure it's going to work in their environment.
Can I ask a question, not to interrupt? Now, the lab PC hardware requirements, these are the desktops that we should have that they could be accessing, or am I looking at the new build PC?
These are the ones, if you're going to have lab exercises where they're actually going to be completing the labs on those devices. Now, there are a few packet tracers that just like with CCNA, that what they will do, but it will. The majority of items they go through, and whether they check the control panel or what, and if you've used Windows 10, and fortunate enough, I have Windows 10 at my home office, and then I'm Windows 11 here at my home office, and I'm Windows 10 in my office at work, so I can kind of see the comparisons of them, and especially when I'm teaching the IT Essentials. I try to kind of split it up so students can see the difference between the operating systems. But if you go back to Windows 7, it is some difference about how to maneuver around. Not a lot, but yes, the course will talk about Windows 10, and that it recommends that if you're going to be doing any of the labs from the NetAcad course, that it will be on a Windows 10 PC.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Yes, these are the lab PCs, not the PCs to read the curriculum from.
Yep. Yes, that's correct. So it's just basic 32 gig hard drive. Pretty much what your Windows 7 machine has on it probably will be sufficient with Windows 10. Basically, Windows 10 is all it says. Now, Microsoft, I'm almost certain you would have it, but you should have access to what used to be called DreamSpark for your school, where it gives you access to free Windows software to put on your lab devices. When Kelly takes over, I'll identify the correct place and share it in the chat where you can actually apply for it if your school system does not have it or you don't have access to that software. The lab PC repair tools are all going to pretty much stay the same. I haven't seen anything different there. It will get into crimping, your crimping tools, your cable strippers. Nothing changed there. Now here, the additional required stuff. This is, even though it says additional, this is not necessarily what's changed between the 7 and 8 course. It just says it's recommended that you have internet access, access to a printer, a wireless router, Ethernet cables, and RJ45 connectors for both building and testing. It does talk about USB flash drives. I use that particular discussion as more talk than actually show. I would prefer students not use USB drives and bring USB drives onto campus because they may lose it and may have personal information on it. It does get into some smartphones, very, very little. But here's where I wanted to kind of go over, and this is not is that section. So that doesn't really, it shows you everything with the combined of the 7 and 8 bridge materials. So if you look through here, starting at module 1, intro to personal computer hardware, a little bit. Now, the reason I'm showing you that and comparing this is in the 7.0 course curriculum. It doesn't, unfortunately, when you create a new course, it doesn't tell you what modules in it, what the module name is. So comparing that to the course here, it still doesn't. This is the 7.0 material with the bridge content added. So you have bridge content for module 1. I think it's module 4 that.
Oh, okay.
Let me go here. This is the actual material that's been changed. So you have an option of either creating the IT version 7 with the 8 bridge material, or just create a bridge course by itself. And that's, I've kind of created all 3. This one is just the bridge material to show you what's changed in the actual 14 modules. So module 1, it did have some updates with the intro to personal computer hardware. It added DNS, DHCP operations, and VLANs. That is very good to have. I'm not sure about how your curriculum is laid out, but for us at Stanley, our students kind of go backwards. They take the CCNA 1 and CCNA 2 first. I wish we could do the IT essentials first, because it would give them the base understanding of VLANs, DNS, DHCP. Not only that, it actually, because of the IT essential curriculum, it even gets into IPv4 and IPv6, which when they jump into CCNA 1, that's the kind of the big caveat of having to understand the CCNA material, or you have students that drop out.
Excuse me, Brian.
Go ahead.
So I just want to make sure I kind of understand this. You have
Okay.
the 7 version.
Yes, and here's the 7 course right here. That just is this is exactly, if you created a new course, this is what it would look like.
Okay, so is the bridge already incorporated in the
So
7?
you have that option, yes. So right now, I just created the straight bridge class. I just created a new class, just only the bridge, and this shows you the material, the modules that actually changed. So it changed module 1, some 6, some more information about Windows installation with the boot methods. In 10, 11 gets into privacy. Module 13. This gets into operation system login and security. And then module 14 is, if you've taught the course, you know that course. I mean, you go over it and you cover it to the best of your ability, but a majority of instructors run out of time. They kind of spot check and only cover it a little bit. But this actually gets into asset management and truly into documentation, which is is very important. Now, what you were saying and asking about, yes, there is a course that has both 7 and the 8 bridge material, and this is what it looks like. So the same course content for version 7 is here, and then they added just the bridge content here. And I'll go ahead and open it so you see it.
So when we create the course, I guess we will, when we're ready to create the course, we will given that choice of the bridge or
Yes.
non-bridge.
Yes, and here it is. When I go to create a course, and I'll just create it under my academy.
Yeah.
Let's see, I can do IT Essentials PC, which is here.
Uh-huh.
Or if I just wanted to do bridge material, it's here. But if you want to have it all included, you would just select the IT Essentials, PC hardware and software here, and then hit continue.
Okay.
And then on your version, this is where you select it 7.0 with IT
Yeah,
bridge.
with the bridge.
So
Okay, cool.
it's built in for you. Now,
So, and
Don't
what
have
was,
it
that was
made-
designed for, Robin, imagine you had an IT7 class already running now,
Uh-huh.
and then you could just give them just the bridge class. You know, you could have the bridge class. But if you're starting a new class, I would do them IT7 with the bridge.
Okay, but you don't have an 8.
Not
there
yet.
is not
Okay,
yet. It's
gotcha.
probably going to be end of the semester before they actually go through and troubleshoot and verify the labs is going to align. Because in the content itself, they've separated the module content from what 7 was and what 8 is. So it's 2 different reading sections. So when I selected the bridge content, this shows of where it's at, talks about safety. Module 6 gets into DNS records. So that information has not been added to 7, but they will combine it in the next few months and have it ready for our spring courses. Let's see. So this gets in module 6. Additional content is the DNS records, spam management, DHCP, basically the DHCP operations, a 4-step process, how a PC would obtain a lease, process of capturing it by Wireshark and reviewing each of the packets there, and then the lease and the reservation time, whether it's DHCP discover or offer down to if it received it. Now, Windows installation, this gets into boot methods, and this is where it does have a lab that says research boot methods, access to BIOS. This is where you would need a Windows 10 PC because this lab is based on Windows 10. And then here it says use bootable USB media. I would probably have this as a show and tell in class. I probably wouldn't have them doing much on that, other than because all of our lab computers are already at Windows 10, they were already going to be accessing these items anyway. I mean, we were fortunate enough to be able to upgrade to that ahead of time. 10.11, the change is.
Can I say something right there though, Brian?
Yes, please do.
I actually disagree a little bit because one of the things we do a great deal in the data center is we take servers that come in with no operating system on them,
yeah.
and we load ESXi from a bootable flash drive.
Yeah.
So that is a skill that I think students need to know how to load from a bootable flash drive an operating system, because in the data center, we do that all the time. So that may be something that if you get a chance, have at least one machine that they could sit there and load from a bootable USB to it. Gotcha. and see how that works.
Well, I was meaning it's more of a class exercise that we do in class kind of together. They don't have to bring in nothing. I'd have it already for them.
Oh yeah, don't let them bring their own bootable CDs in or floppies in. You give them the floppy, or the USB drive. God, I really am showing my age saying floppy.
And let's see, here is the others. We've got 13 and module 14. So that's the main changes that's occurred. So again, you can create the course with the bridging material in it. It's just 2 separate reading locations. Any questions? Anything to share further? Anything else there before I pass it back to Kelly?
And like Brian said, we've been told the 1st of next year is when we'll probably see a full 8 version come out in the drop down, but we haven't been given an absolute time frame on that yet.
Okay.
Any questions from anyone about that? So my suggestion is, if you've already made your class for the fall and you've got students in it, then just open a bridge class. If you have not made that class yet, then go ahead and make it the IT7 with bridging integrated. And then that way they won't have to go into 2 different classes at one time.
Is there a way we can get the equipment list? Can you get that to us?
Brian, will you post where that's at? It should actually be, let me show y'all, let me show you my screen.
To be in the Neticat, I would imagine.
Yeah, it should actually be right here. One of the things I want to show all of you as part of our meeting today is underneath Netacad resources, course
Right.
resources. We should be able to see under here under, where is it at? IT Essentials. 8 English or 8 Bridge. It should actually be underneath here. And we can see scope and sequence right there. So that should be it right there. Okay, so right there, so under course resources, IT Essentials, which is down here, version 8, and then English, scope and sequence. Right there it is. So that's that document that Brian was showing you. Is that correct, Brian?
So I use the PowerPoint a lot.
Sorry about that. I got my truck ready, Kelly, finally. So that's, I knew that was them. So I had to say, yeah, I'll come pick it up. Yes,
Okay.
everything is there. Under that course resources, IT Essentials, then version 8.
Are the
And we'll tell you all the
PowerPoints
bridge
there
material.
too? PowerPoints?
There are no PowerPoints for version 8 yet.
Yeah.
What about the bridge?
No PowerPoints for the bridge either. At the moment, the only resource files we have are these right here, which are the lab documents. So
Okay.
you do have instructor lab manuals for the new labs. So those do exist, but there are no PowerPoints at the moment. I will say this: if you kind of look, there wasn't a great deal of
There's not a lot of content. I mean, it's very short.
in those bridge.
So basically, we're going to be using 7's content, but bridging with what has been placed in Netacad for 8
Correct.
until the spring.
Correct. That is
So
correct.
so may I suggest to my colleagues for the city to just focus on the 7 and review the bridge material, unless you're actually working in those chapters, because it's going to be overwhelming when that 8 comes out to switch over. If we're just working, if the material that we have is 7, then I know for me, I'm going to be focusing on the 7. And using the bridge to support the changes in the new curriculum or the new standards for the CompTIA exam.
Yes, and the other thing is, I agree with that. I'd still cover the material, but the current chapter or module exams that are in the current IT Essentials, it's only going to be on version 7 material. They'll update the new exams, but it will be in the new. It'll be additional information added to the bridge course, and then they'll have it all in together in the 8 course.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
In relation to the A+ exam, because that's what IT Essentials mostly focuses on, right?
Yes.
How much did the new test change in comparison to the old test?
I couldn't tell you exactly, other than
I know that they've changed the domains again.
Yeah, I saw that. It kind of made it a
So I
little
think
even.
that's like the major. You just need to know which one has 5, which one has 4, and then from there, I would just hone in on the differences through reviewing the objectives, because the exam, they will still be able to take the 1001, 1002 through September, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, Mr. Cottle, and October as well. October is the end when they will no longer utilize the 1001, 1002, but they will be introducing the next version. What is it, 1101, 1102, something like that.
I actually think it's already available.
Okay.
So 1101, 1102 became available April 2022. The old series and then the new version, the old ones, will be retired on October 20th, 2022.
There you go. So you can still do, if you're testing in your house, you can still focus on the 1001 and 1002 for students who have finished the curriculum. You can test them through October.
Yeah. As long as they test by October 20th of 2022, they can test on the old. Just, I would say this, when they sign up to take the test, make absolutely sure they select the old one.
Yeah.
Because that they're the same number, which is kind of crazy. So make sure they're getting the old one, not the new one by accident. So.
And one more thing, if you don't mind, because
Mhm.
it's sometimes hard for us to really have our little meetings. When the students are signing up for those exams, they have to sign up online by creating a CompTIA account first. You'll have to give them the voucher for them. I'm sorry, once they sign up for the account, if they have to pay for it on their own, give them the voucher for that purpose. But if you're testing them, you should be able to pay for it yourself using the voucher, but they have to sign up online. You won't be able to issue the payment for the test until the student has actually, they've gotten their CompTIA ID. If that CompTIA ID doesn't come up, you will not see them in the database. We no longer can put them in there. I just wanted to share that with
Okay, so Robin, they have to go to the CompTIA site, the student does, and make a CompTIA ID before testing. Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know, because I need to know that myself. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will tell you, I ran into a serious issue in North Carolina, and that is we've adopted the Program Essentials in Python class as the second level Python for the entire state of North Carolina. So they were to take PCAP. Well, to take PCAP, they had to go to a Prometric View testing center or test with Prometric View. Well, that meant they had to have an ID. I, being the idiot I am, no longer being in teaching high school, my thing was, you're 16, you're going to have a driver's license, right? Because the day I turned 16, I went to get my driver's license. In fact, I was mad because it was on a Sunday and I couldn't go to Monday. Well, then all these teachers come to me, after we rolled this out and said, well, my students don't have an ID. I'm like, they got a driver's license. No, our students don't get their driver's license or don't want to get their driver's license. I nearly fell over. I literally almost fell over. I was like, you're telling me we have seniors in high school that don't have a driver's license? Yeah. And I'm like, now, honestly, in some of the cities in your area, I could see it because you got public transportation. You don't need a driver's license. Down here, you don't go anywhere if you don't have a driver's license.
Yeah.
So it blew my mind.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
and they took driver's ed out of schools a long time ago.
Yeah. But
A long
even
time
still,
ago.
you'd think they would get their driver's license. But I will say this: if you are using Program Essentials in Python, there's a way now for your school to become a testing center so you can test locally to your local students.
Yeah.
So that's something I can share with you on how to do it. And I do want to actually, any other questions about the IT Essentials? Because I want to talk about a couple other resources that you may not have thought about using.
What does so that the Python class prepares you for the certified Python programming associate?
It's PCAP, programming.
Yeah.
PCAP. Well, it actually prepares you for both PCEP and PCAP. So let me show you that. Inside of NetAcad, there is this class right here, PCAP, Programming Essentials in Python. This class requires no instructor training. So if you want to start offering this tomorrow to your students, you can start a class as long as you have the instructor role in your academy. Okay. And if you don't have the instructor role, we can get you an instructor role pretty easily in the networking academy. But this class is version 2 has been released, and it does map to the Python certified associate programmer, but you also can get the PCEP if you want to do that. So it actually aligns to both. The first section of it aligns to PCEP. The second section, or both of them together, actually align to the PCAP. So you can get fully certified. There's even better if you've never used this class before. This class requires you don't even have to load anything on a PC in your environment. If I go back here real quick, I'm going to show you this class. I'm going to create one. I'm going to create a course under my community college here, and I'm going to do Programming Essentials in Python. Okay. So give it a second. You know how it takes a little bit of time. I have to give it a name and all, but here's, you don't want to use self-paced because self-paced is if your students are going to be doing it on their own, or you're giving it away free to the community. Which, by the way, if you wanted to do that, you can do that. Let's say you had parent teacher organization, and for some reason you wanted to run a free class for your parents, you could do that. You could do self-paced, but I'm gonna do this one and do Python test. I can spell Python. All right, Control C. Actually, let's do this and just do fall 22. I have it myself. Control C. I'm just gonna take all the defaults and click continue so it'll get added and publish it now. So it'll take a little bit for it to fully populate the class. But you will see here in a minute when I launch the class, it's gonna ask me to log in because my login for some reason had expired. But here's the class, and when you go in here to actually do the class itself, all right, so I click here, you'll notice what it does. It actually boots up in this environment a Python, an actual Python interpreter. So I got to go here to the sandbox. So you do not have to even load Python on your PCs for your students to take this class. There's a sandbox here. They can do all the work, go back to course. They can be reading in here, reading all about things. And then when they get to a section that actually has a lab, let me find the lab. There's not one in this first section, I don't believe. So I had to actually go back to the other section. But when there's actually a lab, you don't have to actually load anything on your local systems. So here it is, lab, the print function. So here's the lab, right here's the sandbox, and it tells them becoming familiar with print. So print, no upgrade. Print, everybody knows the old hello. Okay. Print hello, and then you can run it. And console should give you that a fail because I forgot to put the my quotations around it. There you go. Okay. So print hello, but you can the lab is right here and they do it right here. So you don't have to have you don't have to load Python, you don't have to load anything. So if you're not using this class, I highly recommend you use it. Okay, because it is a free class, completely usable by you, and you don't have to have any instructor training whatsoever to integrate it into your curriculum. In fact, if it's something, if you want to do Python along with your IT essentials, or you want to do Python along with your the other cybersecurity course, Intro to Cybersecurity, create a class. Now, I will tell you this, it's designed to be a 70-hour course, so it's a lot of material, but they don't have to get through all of it to learn a little Python, and that's going to help them down the road. So don't feel like you have to do the whole course. If you can just get them to do some of it and they get interested in Python, hey, we won. We're way ahead of the ball game. Questions about go ahead, Ron.
The Linux course is the Linux course still the same where you can do the same thing, self-paced?
Exactly. This Linux Essentials right here and Linux Unhatched. Now Linux Unhatched. Oh, sorry, y'all. I got to take this 1 second.
Sorry about that. We're having to work and do lectures. It's a combination of different things, different calls.
We're used to it.
Never fails. One of us is going to have a call.
Yeah.
Now I went back, but Kelly put in chat that it's Microsoft Imagine. It used to be DreamSpark, is now Microsoft Imagine to get signed up, and you'd have access to the Windows IOS, Windows 10, 11 server, whatever you need. So if you do not have access to that, I would contact whoever is your curriculum head to see if they actually know about it and can sign up and give you access, because there's a lot of stuff here.
So
sorry, folks.
That's our problem. We don't have a curriculum head.
Okay.
You are our curriculum head.
Kelly's the man then.
Yeah. The
And that's why I was asking about the ISO file, because in the past, when we were under the Towson ASC and we had training,
This, as
and
you need.
I've started recording again. What we will do is we will actually look on the Imagine site, and we will find a way for you to get a copy you can use in the classroom, because I know there has to be a way for us to do that. I mean, there's no way that there's not for Windows 10. And in fact, I'll talk to our local CET program head who has it in his lab and see how he's doing it and see if we can't find a solution for you. So we'll figure out a way to help you.
thank you.
You're welcome. I do want to mention the same thing. You mentioned this, Rob, about Linux Essentials. The Linux Essentials class is the same. Now, I do want you to be aware this Linux Unhatched is only 8 hours. It is designed to be used with IT Essentials, actually, so that the student gets a little bit of Linux, but not a whole lot. Linux Essentials is a full 70-hour course, but it is completely free. So again, it requires no instructor training. It is completely free, and it will actually map to a certification. It actually maps to what used to be, well, this used to be the LPI Linux Essentials course. So LPI Linux Essentials certification. This course has the same thing that the not JavaScript, the Python class has. It boots up a little Linux environment. And so you don't have to load Linux to do the course. It's right there available for you to use. So if you want to use Linux, this is an awesome way to use Linux.
And that's a separate course we would just create to do that.
Exactly. So I'm gonna go in here and show
Import the
you.
students.
I'll create one for you. Create a course.
Uh-huh.
You go pick your college. You go down, you find it is Linux Essentials. I gotta find the thing. Networking Essentials. I know it's here. I just can't. Linux 1, there it is. Linux Essentials, NDG Linux Essentials. Click continue. Do instructor led or self-paced. I'm doing instructor led. So we're going to do Linux SFA 22. Same thing. See, Control B. I'm going to continue, publish now. And this will create a Linux Essentials class. Instructor led, you can put your students in it just like any other academy course. And the only thing you have to do here is before you get started, you do have to actually agree to it's their terms. So if I click here, if I click chapter 1, it's going to pop up and say, do you agree to our terms of service, which basically is you won't sue NDG and they're providing it as is, and you're at least 13 years old. Okay, then you have to close that out and then go back. And 13 years old is just because of data privacy laws. So you'll notice here's exactly what it looks like. You've got chapter 1 on this side over here. There's a little Linux box booting up. And give it a couple seconds and it'll boot up and you'll have a full Linux machine sitting there. And there's a good chance that box is down the hall here in my data center because we're supporting these courses. Yeah, so but you'll notice full version here, ls-la.
I actually used this course when we were teaching remotely for that year, because I found that they were able to work within the net lab here. So it made sense. I didn't use it last year, but I think it's a good course to incorporate as well because of students needing to know Linux for the cybersecurity. They're going to need to know Linux.
I tell people all the time that if you're going to do cybersecurity, you've got to know Linux. So I strongly recommend that they get this Linux course. And like I said, the beauty for you as an existing academy, 0 cost. Plus, the beauty for you is you don't have to load a single thing in your classroom. As long as you got a browser and you got the internet access, you're good to go. Also, this runs on Chromebooks, folks. So as long as it's a Chromebook that supports HTML5, you're going to have no problem whatsoever running this course. So That's two of the big things I wanted to show you today. Is I wanted to make sure you're aware of those two resources, the Linux Essentials, okay, and I also want you to be aware of the Program Essentials in Python. There's two other items that have been recently added. You may not know about all these other ones, but we've also got C, C++. All of those have been there for a while. They're the same format as the Python, and you don't have to load anything. There's also this new JavaScript Essentials class.
Wow.
So there's a full JavaScript Essentials, and it's the same way. It does not have to have anything loaded on the machine for it to work, and it maps to this JSE Junior Certified Entry-Level JavaScript Programmer Certification. So there's a lot of new stuff that's been added, and one of those is this cloud security class. So there's also now a cloud security class that talks about cloud security, what it is, how it's affecting our environment. You know, basically it actually maps to a certification, okay, for the cloud security. It's a cloud security, can't remember the name of it, I'm sorry. But it does map to a certification, but you see it basically talks about what is the cloud, how do we secure the cloud, why it's important to secure the cloud, and goes on from there. This course does not require you to do any additional training, and it's available for you to use right now. Okay.
Great.
So you now have just from those three resources, you have a free Linux class, a free Python class, and a free cloud security class that you can roll out tomorrow if you want to use it. All right.
Yeah.
Now, another thing I want to show you. Inside under resources. Now, Giza, you were mentioning what equipment do I need for things.
Yeah.
If you go down to anytime you're under resources, go marketing and program resources. If you go under equipment information, equipment lists by curriculum are right here. And so if you click there, here's all the equipment lists from IT Essentials, V7, to Networking Essentials. If you're teaching Networking Essentials, you were mentioning you were doing that, Robin.
Yes.
CCNA 7. So when you click here, it downloads that file and it shows you the equipment that is required for that particular course. Okay. So here's the required equipment for CCNA 7. They would like for you to have two 4221s and two C1000s. But let me let you in on a little secret. Your 1900s and your 2960s will work just fine.
Yep.
They'll do every lab there is. The only thing you have to do differently is instead of using the slot module interface, you just use the module interface or slot interface. So instead of a gig 000, it's gig 01 or gig 00.
But those are 1900s that can be.
Yeah, and they'll work fine.
18.
Honestly, even the 1800s will do most of it.
Okay, I think I have.
Most of it. In fact, I can't think of, depending on the iOS version, I can't think of anything that wouldn't use it, wouldn't work. Okay. So all of these are under that equipment list. So again, course, go to resources, marketing and program resources, equipment information, and everything you need underneath there. Okay.
Can you bring up the IT Essentials list one more time, please?
Yep. I'm gonna bring up the IT 7 list. Gonna come up. Hopefully it'll come up over here. There it is. Okay. So this is what they're recommending.
Can you zoom that out? I
Yep.
can't really.
Well, I'll try my darndest. Hold on just a minute. Zoom. Nope, that might be too much. Nope, there we go.
There it is.
There we go.
Okay, so let me ask you this: this lab, PC lab hardware requirements, one PC, and all this list here. This is basically for new build PC.
Yeah.
New build PC. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's.
If you can't get a new PC, you can use the old ones. The only thing the old PCs don't have are adapter cards in them.
Right.
They got everything else, but the adapter cards. So for the module that talks about adapter cards, the students can only say like NA. But by that time, they know what the adapter card is because they've been in the box. Just so that if you can't get a PC or you have to wait for it, don't do that. Use what you have. Get some old PCs in there.
That's what I got too. They're starting to wear out.
Yeah, I know, but
And Gaza, you're talking about it's got an onboard NIC, so that's the only thing it doesn't have is a NIC. It doesn't have a slot NIC.
Right, slot. Yeah, but if you get the wireless router slot, Nick, then
Yeah.
you know we have the adapter card that they can practice putting in.
Right. Good look. Yeah. Yeah. Then they talk about here, obviously, just regular. You all have this regular equipment. You know, just
Yeah, that's the lab repair lab tools.
yeah, just a normal tool there. They do recommend a printer, and I know that's
I got those.
yeah. Make sure you got a
Lasers.
printer because that is something they do test on. I have had
Yes, they do.
I've had my A+ for a very long time, so I'm grandfathered, thank goodness. But yeah, I'm one of
Lucky
those
you.
that mine never expires because I was one of those from way back.
Way back, yeah.
Yeah, way back. But if you're having a whole lot of trouble with this, send me an email and I'll see what I can do to try to find you some PCs. It may be that we could find some around here that some people are getting rid of PCs that would still be high enough in that they would help you. Things not mentioned on here that I would always suggest is also make sure you got a couple laptops just for the students to play with the laptops, because real world, we want them to be able to see the laptops and how that works too. But is that good for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I want
now
to
I
show
know
you
what-
another thing underneath this same area under resources, marketing and program resources. This marketing toolkit, folks. If you don't know about it, there are all kinds of things in here that you can get. Brochures, email templates, banners, and backdrops. Now, these things are things that you can take, put whatever you want on it, okay? And then you can print it out. So if you want to make your own banner, you can download this and make your own banner. I mean, a cloth banner or whatever. This is huge. But you can take this to a store and have them print you a banner. So all that's available already in here. There's women in IT banners. There's all types of the logos. These are the actual logos that you can use on your websites. So these are the legal logos that you can put on your website. And just all kinds of things in here. Posters, references. You can order t-shirts. They're not free. I wish they were. They're not. And then there's also videos that you can use and then share so that you can, if you're doing an event and you want to have something playing on a screen, they have videos already made that you can put up there. You don't have to make your own. Okay. Now I would obviously say use these videos plus the videos of your own students. That way your students get excited. But it's look at all these videos they've got here. So I've got a ton of videos.
And speaking of the videos, you could probably use some of those videos, some of them the first week, because your students will be coming in, going out, or whatever the case may be, changing classes because that's not what they want to do. And that will help to get kids revved up about the course if they're in it. If they don't want to get in, they're not sure whether they want to be in it, that can inspire them. So yeah, I've been looking at that marketing stuff. I love it. That was one of the best things I think that Cisco has done. They cover everything from whether you're blogging to your emails. I mean, it's all there. So kudos to Cisco for that.
Yeah, really, really good. Even things for, like I said, doing online social media plans to how to, basically saying do this, do that, do this. And all these materials are for you, and you can put your own logos on it. You can do your own thing with it. So, put your school's logo. And even here's a lot of times I get many requests for brochures. Well, here there are brochures that are already pre-made. And so you can look at them even when this is a trifold brochure that's pre-made that kind of tells you, there's 12,000 academies in 180 countries. One of the things that's kind of sad now is that actually the U.S. is one of the smallest entities in the networking academy at this point now. Yep. We are one of the smaller sections. Only the Great Firewall of China is kind of keeping them from going, blowing past us. But at the same time,
a part of that, I believe, is the fact that you have so many districts trying to cut expenses.
Yeah.
And this is an expense I think that every district in the United States of America should invest in forever.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I do agree it can be expensive to get started, but you got to think too. We charge, you know, the entire Baltimore school system, I think, with $1,000 to support every school that they have. And so, you know, to train you, it's a little more expensive. It's $200 a class if you take classes with us. But the curriculum is free. And so there's, you know, just like I said today, I gave you 3 full classes that are free that you can use for those resources. So I think there's so many things. There's actually so many resources now that's why I wanted to spend a little time talking about those free classes, because I don't think people even know they're there. So any questions about those before we kind of jump in? I want to talk a little bit about a lab. I'm actually going to walk through a little bit of a lab and show you some things if you have any questions about it.
Oh, go ahead. Let's take a look at that lab.
Let's do it. Let's talk about this one right here. Let's talk about, by the way, this is my NetLab system. It is a system that right now there are 20 pods, and back in my data center, there are 20 pods of real Cisco equipment sitting back there running. Well, they're not all running. 4 of them are running. The other ones are waiting on people to do a reservation. So if I wanted to go in here and do a reservation, and I wanted to do the lab on CCNA 1 that has you doing a basic switch configuration, I would go find me a pod. I'd click an open spot. And by the way, there are 20 pods here. And all of you as instructors, if you want access for this, you can have free access to study and use as much as you want. We support your school, and that's one of the things we provide your school, is that we let as an instructor, you can use it as much as you want. And honestly, most of the time we can actually allow you to let your students use it too if you want to use it for your students. But as long as they've got an HTML5 browser, they click here, pick a time, click submit. And what actually happens at that point is that lab is now booting back in my data center. We've got about $1 million data center that we have back there that's actually sitting now booting that particular lab. And you'll actually watch, if I go in here, you will see that there's a real switch booting up inside of my NetLabs. It may take a second. Okay, so 2 switches. You'll actually see them here in a minute. You won't see them booting yet because it takes a little bit to get started, but you see the PCs are booting. So back in my lab, or back in my data center, these 2 PCs are booting on the SXI host, and then these 2 real devices are starting to boot up. So that's a real switch. It's not a simulation. It's the real deal. So that's why it takes it so long to boot. You know, if it was packet tracer, it'd already be booted. Okay. So what I want to show you is I have booted up this pod, which is from, or this lab, which is from CCNA 2, and it is the one on inter VLAN routing. And in this is this particular lab. So I'm going to undock this so we can actually pull this over here and I can show it to you. So what we're going to end up doing, or what I want to do real quickly, I'm not going to do the entire lab, but I'm actually going to do the switch 1 config and the router config. So you see our sub interfaces and tagging. And so you see the switch and its VLANs and the ability to tag. So what I have done already is I have gone into switch 1 and I have just given its name, and I also have actually put the oops, need to undock that again. Sorry. This actually is the system is best if you have multiple monitors. Okay, so one of the things I want to do is I'm going to, in this particular lab, how many of you are familiar with VLANs? You know what VLANs are? Okay, so VLANs are taking a switch and logically dividing the ports so that they can exist in different virtual local area networks. Okay, now the uses are for security. So you can have, for instance, a VLAN for instructors and teachers, and then a VLAN for students, because we don't want those students on our VLAN. We all know how they are. Okay. To build, to separate broadcast traffic, because each VLAN is its own network. So what we're going to do in this particular example is we're going to create a couple VLANs here. We need a VLAN 10, a VLAN 20, and a VLAN 30. So I'm going to go into my switch. And I'm going to type the correct command, which is config T. So I go into global config, and I'm gonna create a VLAN, VLAN 10. Give it a name of management. Now I'm lazy. I am very lazy. So I use the up arrow. Okay. I'm not going to retype anything I don't have to. I say I'm lazy, but I'll tell my students we are optimizing our time. Okay. So VLAN 30. And I'm going to call that name operations. I got to type that in, name operations. Up arrow a couple more times. Now VLAN 999. I want to show you something in just a second before I go much further. And I want to show you a couple things. VLAN 1000. Now I'm going to do a do. Now inside of global config, I really shouldn't be able to run a show command. Show commands should not work. But if you use this special command do, you can then run any show command you want inside of your configuration mode. So I'm going to say do show VLAN. Do show VLAN. You got to spell it right. And you'll notice now that I have VLAN 1 with all of my ports in it. I have VLAN 10 that I've made with management, 20, 30, and 999. But you will notice that even though I typed in VLAN 1000 and name native, that VLAN's not showing up yet. And I want to show you that for a very simple reason. Packet tracer does not work the way real switches work. I don't have VLAN 1000 in my VLAN.dat file yet in my database because I haven't exited from this sub-configuration mode. The second I exit, look what happens. VLAN 1000 shows up. I want to show you what packet tracer does because I've seen this actually have an effect in the real world where people got in trouble because of this. They didn't realize that how that worked. They thought they stopped and they thought that VLAN already existed because they had only worked in packet tracer. Well, inside of packet tracer, if I got to sign in real quickly, folks, with my meta catalog in, then I'll drag it over. And not to say packet tracer doesn't have its places, because it does. It's an excellent tool. In fact, it's the best tool out there for these types of things. But if I bring a switch out here, okay, we let it, oh, come on, boot up. So we let the switch boot. It's fake little boot. Okay. Type en config t, and I'm gonna do show VLAN. Do show VLAN. You'll notice that we've only got VLAN 1. We've got no other VLANs here, none of them. But now watch what happens the second I do this. VLAN 10. Do show VLAN. Look what packet tracer does. Packet tracer goes ahead and puts it into the VLAN.dat file. Real devices do not do this. So I've had people before think they've created a VLAN, then they go try to put an interface into it and it doesn't work, or they just, trust me, I've had issues with it before. So I wanted to show you that because it just shows you one of the differences between real gear and packet tracer. The other thing I wanted to mention here is this parking lot VLAN. You'll notice by default, all ports are in VLAN 1. So even though in CCNA 1 and in parts of 2 at times, it says that VLAN 1 should be used for management, never, ever, ever should VLAN 1 be used for your management VLAN. Now, I know we show that in CCNA 1, and the only reason we do it in CCNA 1 is because we haven't taught our students how to do a switch virtual interface yet. But real world stress to them, you never make VLAN 1 your management VLAN. Because all ports are in VLAN 1, if that's your management and you forget to turn a port off, or you forget to put it in the parking lot VLAN, somebody's just got to walk up and plug a PC in and they're in your management.
They're in there.
They're there.
They're there.
Yep. So never use VLAN 1 for your management. Okay. what you do actually in the real world is you put all unused ports into your parking lot VLAN. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this command. If you've never, how many of you seen the interface range command? Interface range FA01-24. And you'll notice a new sub configuration mode, config if range. What I can do now is I do switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 999. And what this range command allows me to do is apply a configuration to every port that's in that range at one time. So I just put every single port except for the 2 gig ports into the parking lot VLAN. So that command interface range. So I need to put gig 1 and gig 2 into it. So I can do interface range GI0/1. Oops, I hit the wrong button, y'all. Sorry. 1-2. And you'll notice anything I put in here now will apply to both of those. I'm going to do switch port mode access, which makes it an access port. And then I'm going to put it in VLAN 999, do show VLAN, do show VLAN. And now gig 01 and 02 are there. And I didn't have to go to each individual port. Likewise, think about how much work it would have been if I'd had to go on to port 01, then port 02, then 03. You don't have to do that anymore. You can do it by doing the range command. So if you take nothing else away from this lab today and what I'm doing, remember the range command. You can do it. You can even do it like this. You can do interface range FA0, let's say 0/1 to 6, and you'll get just those 6 ports. There is even a way, and if I can remember how to do it, let's see if I can remember how to do it. Range FA0, 0/1, 0/3. Yep. So those are non-contiguous. See, it's 01 and 03 instead of 0, 1, 2, and 3. So if you want to do non-contiguous, you have to put a comma in between them and then do that. So now anything I put in would apply to 0, 1, and 0, 3.
What version of iOS is this?
This should be version 15.2E8. But this range command should work on, this command's been around a long time.
Okay.
So this command should work on almost any iOS version, any 2960 that I know of,
Okay.
it should work on
Range.
within reason. So let's go here on, this is switch 1, and let's put port FA06 at FA06. I'm actually going to move it to switch port access VLAN 10, because that's what it wants it to be. Okay. And then let's see, I got everybody else in the parking lot, so we're good there. Now I need to set up a trunk off of 05 going to R1, because we're going to do sub interfaces on R1. So I need to go to FA05. And remember, what's a trunk? What's a trunk port? When I do switch port mode trunk, what does a trunk port do?
You think it funnels everything in there, right?
It allows tagged traffic to go across the link. Now, an access port does not, so it will not maintain a tag. So when I put this 06 into VLAN 10, that means anything out here has to be untagged. But with this, I want to tag it because I want to be able to route between VLAN 10 and 20 using these sub interfaces I'm going to create on the router. So we need to go over to our router. I need to pull up my router here. And we need to do configuration on the router. Now, good news is I've got the base config already. I cheated. I just put it in names, all I did. Config T. I'm gonna go into G001.10. Okay, so that's our sub interface there. IP add. Actually, before I put an IP address on it, I have to do incap.1q, which is 8021Q for tagging, for frame tagging. All right. And then I got to put the VLAN number. So in this case, this is VLAN 10. So I do 10. Then I can put the IP address on it. IP address. If you don't do that first, it will bark at you and say that it has to be set to a And then I'm gonna do an up arrow because I am efficient, not lazy. Do 20. The up arrow again. .1Q 20. So what this means is on each one of these sub interfaces, the traffic will be tagged with the VLAN that I specify in that .1Q space the number. Let's do 30. And then 30 here. Oops, I forgot what I'll let it bark at you. See, it barked at me because I didn't have the encapsulation on for 30. So we'll do 30, and then we'll go back and put our IP address back in. And we'll bark at us. And then last but not least, what is it, 1000? And this one is, all we do is 1000, but it's native, NATIVE, native. Now, I do have to go back to the switch because if I don't, the switch is going to bark at me and say that there's a native VLAN mismatch. So notice that my VLAN on this side is 999 and their side is 1. So let's do this. Let's do FA0/5 switch port trunk native VLAN 1000. Okay. Now I'm going to do show trunk. I should have a do show int trunk. We should have a trunk here. FA05 is a trunk. Native VLAN of 1000. Likewise, we should be able to go to R1 here. Do show IP int brief. You're going to notice something they're up. Okay. If they were not up, if it was administratively down, I'd have to go to the gig 001 to bring them up. Okay. Now at this point, I should actually be able to go to the PCA, undock it here and put it over here. And I should be able to give it an IP address. That's the great thing about this system. I mean, it's just a real PC. We are actual national judges for Skills USA. And one of the main things we find at the national level is that students don't know how to set an IP address on a real PC because all they use is packet tracer.
One of the easiest things to do in the world, huh?
Yeah.
Because of the packet tracer.
192.168.2020.255.255.255.
Yeah. 192.168. I actually didn't follow the directions exactly because what I did was I put port 06 in VLAN 10, but that's fine. It's good to change things up on occasion. So let's make sure do show VLAN. Let's make sure. I cannot type that today for some reason. Yep, 06 is in VLAN 10, so that is correct. I've got the PC in the right VLAN. So what I should be able to do, and I was actually having a lot of problems with students in a class earlier that I was teaching. I'm actually teaching a class right now. Let me show you something that will get you in all kinds of trouble. If you put the IP address on and you click here, it doesn't apply.
You got to hit OK, don't you?
Got to click OK. Not only that, you have to click OK and you have to click OK here.
If you cancel it out, it doesn't say.
Exactly. So
yeah, I found that out the hard way.
Yeah, I had a student earlier who said, I know I put IP address in, and they were clicking that X, and that's exactly what was doing it. Yep.
You gotta save it.
Yep, it sure happened. So let's do this. Let's do an IP config here. And now if I can ping 192.168.10.1, that's going up to that goes from PCA up here. Now notice what happens. Here's the cool thing. It leaves PCA. It goes up. In fact, I can do this. It leaves PCA. It goes up here. It gets tagged as part of VLAN 10. It goes across this link here. And when it gets here, it's going, in this case, just to 10. So it just responds. But if I go back over here, let me turn off annotation. Okay. So if I go back over here, though, and I ping 20.1, that's the other sub interface. That would be going across to the other sub interface, getting tagged with VLAN 20 before going there and coming back. And if I set this entire network up, the tags would be maintained on the entire infrastructure, but not out here on the access ports. So this is an example of inter VLAN routing, because you can see I can go between my VLANs here. All right. I'm getting between VLAN 10 and VLAN 20 and 30 by going up through this switch, going across this trunk link over to R1. Now, if I want to make this fully functional, let me do this real quickly. I'll do this for us so we can see a fully functional setup. So R1, I need to finish up by doing the following. I do Control C here. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Config T, int FA01, switch port mode, trunk, switch port trunk, native 1000. Okay, native VLAN 1000. 1000. Now I'm gonna go to switch 2. So I need to jump to switch 2 real quick. Grab switch 2, undock it, bring her over here, do that. And I've got to do real quickly, I got to first set up my, I don't have to do this first, but I'm going to. I'm gonna set up my trunk link just so it won't bark at me. So int FA01, switch port mode trunk, switch port trunk, native VLAN 1000. Now I got to create my VLAN. So VLAN 10. I'm gonna be lazy. I'm not gonna name them. VLAN 20, VLAN 30, VLAN 1000. You can do that. You don't necessarily have to VLAN 999. You don't necessarily have to do that. You don't have to give them a name, but it's best practice. And int FA018. I'm gonna make it part of switch port mode access. I'm gonna make it part of VLAN 30. Switch port access VLAN 30. Okay. So now we'll go to PCB and give it an IP address in that range and see if we can't ping all the way across from PCB to PCA. So
We can use this as part of the Net Lab now?
oh yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, yep. I can you just like I said, I can put you in I think I've already got you in the class that has access to all the CCNA materials.
Oh,
But if I don't, let me know and I will get you access. I'll give you all my I will give you all my email address in just a minute. You can email me and I'll get you in a class that has access to all these.
excellent.
Okay.
Yeah, you can put me in.
Well, and that's one of the things I will say about this system, especially if you just want to go play around with some labs. It's hard to beat. And we have every lab that's on the CCNA 7 curriculum in here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is ping my default gateway because that's just the best practice. And so now what just happened is this actually left. Let's change our color here. This is on VLAN 30. This to ping actually went here and went all the way across to the sub interface 30, FA030. And then now if I do this, all right, let me undo all these. Okay. If I actually now ping 10.100, which is the PC over here, what's actually happening is this now. We actually have leaving PCB. It comes in, it has no tag on it, but when it gets here, it's tagged as part of VLAN 10, goes all the way over here and hits the sub interface 30 because that's the network it's on. And then it gets routed back over going to the 10 network and it goes out the sub interface for 10, goes to PCA and then returns. So we've got full connectivity and we've set up 2 trunk links and we set up our VLANs. And you can see it was not difficult to do, and you can also verify it. So if we go in here now, let's go close this out. Let's go to switch 2. All right, let's go to switch 2. And we can do the following. We can do a do show int trunk. You'll see we've got a trunk on FA01 which is the one going across the switch 2. Okay, in fact, I'm going to dock these devices back in, so we'll have them here. Do show VLAN. You can see we got our VLANs. Now I haven't moved these into the parking VLAN, but we've got our FA018 in that VLAN. Let me dock here. I go back over here to switch 1. I said if I go back to switch 1, hold on just a second. There it goes. I go back to switch 1. If I do a do show int trunk, you'll see I've got 2 trunks. One trunk going up to the server and another trunk going to the switch 2. And you notice I didn't change the allowed VLANs. By default, all VLANs are allowed. So I didn't change that. I could have if I wanted to. And then on the router, we've got our sub interfaces supporting all 3 VLANs. Actually 4 VLANs. We got 1,000 on there, but we're really not even putting an IP address on that because that's the best practice for your native VLAN to be some VLAN that's not even in use on anything. So this system is available for you to use, and we'll inside of chat, I'm gonna stick my email address, email me, and we'll make sure you have an account to use it. Okay.
So since I have an account for the packet tracer, am I already?
No, that is a different,
right?
that's a different server. That's a different server, yeah, because that's our competition server. Yeah, the competition server is a different server. We have 5 different NetLab systems on our campus. So if you got one here, you don't have one on NetLab. So just send me one and say you want one on NetLabs, and I'll get you one on NetLabs. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't sync your username and database, so you'll have to have two different accounts. But like I said, you'll have full access to it. So yeah, just send me an email and I'll make that happen. Any other questions? Any questions about the items I showed you in terms of resources? Now, one thing I'm going to do now is I am going to end my reservations because that way it will make that equipment available. The cool thing is too, when I'm done, it will go in and delete anything that I put on the devices, and it will actually clean the PCs off to a known good configuration. But this system is the only way I would actually agree to teach CCNA online. Is once we had this, I would do it. Before that, I would not teach CCNA online at all.
How could you, right?
Yeah, well, you could with just packet tracer, but I didn't feel like that was a fair thing to do for a student. So we would not do it. So, okay, everyone, that's all we have for today. Don't forget, in your chat, there should be the link from Nicole to do your exit. I'm going to stop the recording.